Hi, friends. I'm Emily Lay, and you're listening to the Simplified podcast. If you're looking for a quiet place where you can filter out the noise and the hustle, this is it. Every week, I invite you to slow down and join me to explore practical ways to organize and automate the complicated parts of life so you can focus on what truly matters most. Today, we're talking all about how to connect with friends even when life is busy, because we've all felt the sweet comfort of spending time with a friend. If you want to make friendship a more intentional part of your life this season, even when you don't have a lot of spare time, I think our friendship workbook might be able to help. It's packed with questions and ideas on how you can connect with friends in big ways and even the small ones, because friendships are nurtured in the small, quiet, everyday moments. You can find the Friendship Workbook and the rest of our awesome workbook collection over on emilylay.com. Guys, I can feel it. We are on the ramp up to the busy season. Once we enter the months that end with BER, I feel like we're on a treadmill that starts off in a pretty manageable way, but every day the speed is just ever so slightly cranking up until we get past Halloween, when we're basically off in a full-blown sprint. And I'm always left wondering, how did this happen? When did this happen? How's it Christmas again? I hate to admit it, but I feel like one thing that doesn't get my attention during this busy time of year are my friendships. That makes me so sad. Sometimes I feel like I have to put friendship on the back burner because so much other stuff starts to take over my life. Work gets busier as we start to gear up for the rush of the holiday season. School's ramping up and the kids are having more after-school activities and class parties and sleepovers and everything else that makes their lives fun but requires just a teensy bit more of my time to coordinate it. There's all sorts of fall fun I want to make sure is in our schedule, all the orchards and pumpkin patches and apple cider donuts and football games and hay rides. So when, in all of that, do I take some time for me? When do I get to spend some good life-giving time with my friends? When are we going to sip a glass of wine at book club? When am I going to read the book? And when am I going to see the others who live in other states but are still so dear to me? Friendship is something that I've wanted to be more intentional about this year. I've heard from so many of you that you want to also. And now that we're approaching one of the busiest seasons of the year, I wanted to wave a flag and give us a brief time out of our days to think about this part of our lives that's so important. Because I know I'm not the only one who trims the friendship part of their time budget when things get a little crunched. And man, do I get it. Because you know what? My friends also get it. They're busy too. And some moments when a coffee date needs to get pushed back, I know in the back of our minds we're both breathing a tiny sigh of relief just to have a little more margin. And that's between two people who love each other and love spending time together. But man, sometimes just the simple act of spending time together feels so hard, because time is so hard to come by these days. But you know what? I never come away from those moments being sad that I spent time with my friend. I never think, well, gosh, that was a waste of time. Never, ever, ever. Friendship feeds my soul in a way nothing else does. It gives me such a quiet, calm peace, even on the worst days. Because what is more precious than a ride or die who has your back, who sends your favorite gummy bears when you accomplish a big new thing, or picks your kids up from school when you're sick as a dog and your partner's away on a business trip, who vents with you on text about things that are dumb or weird or hilarious. Friendship is many wonderful things, but in the busy season, it can be the most wonderful pressure release valve imaginable. So I am excited to welcome my teammate and friend over at Simplified, Miss Jessa Bray, our incredible art director, to talk about how to nurture your friendships, even when it's hard to connect because of life. She has always got the most practical advice, plus she's completely hilarious, so that helps too. Trust me, if you're drowning in a sea of obligations and struggling to keep up with friendships, then sister, I get it. It's tough. But trust your friends have got your back, even in these harder moments. All right, enough talking. Let's get to my conversation with Jessa. Hi, Jessa.
Hello.
Hello. Thanks for doing this.
What an honor to be
What an
here.
honor. Oh my gosh, you're so sweet. I was telling everybody earlier how you are someone that is just so good at like speaking truth and life into any situation, like be it a big one or a small one. You're on Team Simplified. You're always quick with the really thoughtful, heartfelt prayers, which I love them so much. And I think that you're the type of friend that people would be super fortunate to have. So I'm glad you're here and I can't wait to talk about this.
So sweet. Just start with tears.
I mean, so for anybody that doesn't know all about you, will you just introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do, all that?
All right. So my name is Jessa. I am the art director for Simplified. I am a mom of three, which is crazy.
Every time I say that too, I'm like, that's a lot.
Well, there's a lot of humans over
A
here.
lot of people.
I've been married for almost 12 years. We live in a little town called Titusville, Space Coast. We have rockets launching like all the time right now, which is really cool. My husband is a worship pastor. We're super involved with our church. I always like to say I could kill the dance floor and 6 tacos at any given point in time.
That's like, that needs to be like line one of your bio.
Right.
That makes me happy.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, today we are talking about how to be a good and an intentional friend during busy seasons. And I told you earlier that this is something that I don't feel like I'm really good at because sometimes I get into those modes where like I'm just trying to keep my head above water with work and with kids and all the things. And everything that's not in those buckets just gets pushed aside, sadly. And I don't love that about myself. Like, I wish that I was better at it. So, for you, has there ever been a time when it felt like really hard to connect with your friends, even though you wanted to? Did anybody show up for you in just the right way, or even a way you didn't ask for, but really actually needed?
I would have to say the first time that I felt that way was when we had our first child. We were the first of our friend group
Mm,
to have kids.
yeah.
And it was a very new chapter. Obviously, motherhood is like it's all very new, very
Yeah.
quickly. And but this in particular was like more like an isolation feeling of like, I don't want to burden them with my baby. They didn't
Yeah.
choose this type thing. And so I kind of wanted to do it all on my own. And luckily, I had people in my life that were able to see me and know me for who I am. And they were like, okay, absolutely not. You're not going to do that. And kind of, paddled out to my island and made themselves at home, even though I didn't want them there at first. But it ends up that I did. And I needed them. And the second time would definitely be postpartum with all of my kids. Just it's a hard season to go through when you have tiny humans needing you for everything. Even this last round of postpartum, having Cal, he's 7 months old now, and I feel like I'm just coming out of that fog of which way is up,
Mm-hmm.
and having people come to my door and leaving a meal, or having my friends come in and be like, I'm gonna wash your dishes and you're gonna sit right there
Oh my
and it's
gosh.
gonna be fine. Or you're gonna go take a shower and it's gonna be fine. And I've really had to work on being okay with that, being
Mm-hmm.
okay with letting people in to my messy seasons or my hard seasons. But yeah, I'm super fortunate to have people in my life that can see my white flag before I raise it, I guess I would say.
I feel that in my bones. I had a similar season when the twins were born and we lived in Tampa and we didn't have family around.
Mhm.
And I was kind of like in captain mode where I was like, oh, I can do it all. I can
Yeah.
watch
Oh
me. Like,
yeah.
I will just plan and organize my way through this. Like, and
Mhm.
everyone will cooperate. And it doesn't work out like that. And it was Kristen Winchester who lived down the street and would just show up and like come in. I can remember one time I was giving Caroline a bath and I was probably crying because everything was on
Right.
its head.
Yeah,
And
of
she
course.
came in and was like, "Hey, I'm going to help." And I just remember looking around the house like everything's a mess.
Why are
Usually when
you
someone
here?
comes over, I've like chopped the pillows and maybe, like everything is
Right.
where it's supposed to be. And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh gosh, you are in my mess." But I feel like
Yeah.
that's the mark of like a really, really special
Yeah.
friend that will show up
Yes.
there.
Yep. Absolutely. I remember like looking at, and this was my best friend, Danielle, like she has shown up for me in some of my really hard times.
Mm.
And I remember looking at her and being like, how can you do this? You have two of your own, like you have a husband, you have a life, you have a business, like there are things happening in your world. And I remember thinking, I don't understand how she could even be here right now. But I think something that I've learned coming through those is like, in order for us to be an intentional friend, there are definitely seasons in my life where being a intentional friend, a thoughtful friend is really difficult to do spontaneously, right?
Mhm.
Like I don't have the capacity to just show up because I am barely functioning. Like
Mhm.
I haven't showered in like 3 days and like it's not good. So I will say something I've learned is like you can be prepared to be a thoughtful friend when it does show up, when that is at your doorstep and has a lasagna or has groceries, or I think there's just like really practical things that you can do. It's not so much like my friends are superheroes and you're not going to be able to find them. Like
Mm.
they only exist here. That's not true. I think that they're everywhere and they're just better prepared for seasons like that. And
I
so,
agree.
yeah.
My friends here in Pensacola, I had surgery. Well, I talked openly about this on the podcast once before, but I had breast implants removed, which was a whole thing. And my book club friends here knew about it, and they just showed up. Like, they just showed up with food. They were like, hey, I'm picking up your kids from school. I remember one day I woke up and I was in that like post surgery fog of like, what day is it? And I hear
Mhm.
my friend Jane in my living room. And I'm like, is that Jane? And I hear her just saying, I'm taking the kids. And I'm like, what? I want to be better at that of like just showing up for
Yeah.
people before they ask because they're not going to ask, you know?
They're not going to ask. I
Yeah.
think, and that is for me, again, like that is uncomfortable for me. Like
Yeah.
you didn't ask. I want this to happen. I feel it in my bones. I want you to take my children. But at the same time, there's this uncomfortableness of like, okay, you can come in, you can love me this way. Like that's
Yeah.
okay. I can be a person that can be loved this way. I'm always very like, who else needs to be loved this way? Not me.
Right. Everybody else.
Right.
Everybody else,
Everybody else.
but not me.
And like those things, like showing up with a meal, like have, a practical thing is like, I have my lasagna recipe. Like I don't have to look at it. I know
Yeah.
it. I've memorized it. It is my go-to meal. I'm so sorry if you're listening to this and you're going to have a baby soon and you live in my area. A lot of
You're
times that's
getting
what I'm going to show
lasagna.
up with. I hope you will. Like, that's just it. So like, that's one of those ways that you can be prepared. You're not scrambling, right?
Yeah.
To show up. Like, you know exactly what you need from the store and that's what you're bringing. You
Yeah.
have a closet, I'm sure, at your house, and you may have like 4 or 5 random things, but tied up in a bow. That could be a
Mhm.
really thoughtful gift for someone who doesn't feel worthy of anything right now. Like,
Mhm.
there's just different ways I think that we can be prepared to be those like really great friends. It doesn't take a superhero.
I love that. My friend Kristen is like, she's really good at being an amazing friend. Like,
I know she
very
really we are missing her today.
we are, but she is just she's so good at it. And I think she would say the same thing that like it is one of those buckets that she doesn't push to the back burner. Like it's also one of those things she is prepared for. Like
Yeah.
my go-to like drop off for a friend meal is chicken enchiladas.
Yep.
And when that isn't going to happen because I have too many things going on, but I still want to be a good friend, let me just write this down. Uber Eats Carrabba's is where it's at. You can get
Okay.
spaghetti, salad, and bread delivered for like, I don't know how much it was, but it was like reasonable to have it
Right.
delivered. I recently did that for a friend. And another one from Uber Eats is Moe's. You can get like a taco kit or a nacho kit, and it comes in this
Oh,
box where the containers for like the toppings are like the box has cutouts and they're nestled in the box so you can't spill it. So you literally get this huge box and you just open it
yes.
and there's your meal. You don't even have to like
Absolutely.
take
That
stuff
is
out.
like that is everyone's spiritual gift,
Yeah.
right?
Right?
Like just letting Uber Eats handle it.
Absolutely. Just let if you have to, just like let Uber Eats handle
But
it.
it's still a meal. It's still you going out of
Yeah.
your way to show up for someone. It's just there are seasons where I can make you a homemade lasagna. Right
Yeah.
now, it's not like it could not
Right.
happen. Like there have
Yeah.
been plenty of times where I'm like, let's just order them something.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's so thoughtful. Kristen and I had this conversation once where we just both lately have been so busy and she sent me a voice message. Like, instead of texting, you like hold down the
Love
microphone and
voice
talk.
messages. Big
So
fan.
she's like, Emily, I know you're really busy and I know you're not going to listen to this or answer me for a couple of days, but I'm just putting this in your text. I'm just telling you like, hey, this is what's going on in my life. I'd like to know what's going on in your life. Respond in 3 weeks or whenever you can. And I was like, that's so sweet.
It is sweet. It's
And
like
it was
it's
3 weeks.
showing up with grace. Like that's
Yeah.
not even like a gift, right? Like that's not even like something tangible. That's just like
Yeah.
I see the season that you're in. I
Yeah.
still love you, grace on grace,
Yeah.
and I just still want to know you, right? Like,
Absolutely.
A few weeks ago, our family started what we called screen-free summer. Instead of getting screens out during downtime, we played board games, went on walks, and put together every single project in our KiwiCo boxes. It was so much fun and dialed down the stress a bit too. As we head into the new school year, I want to keep the screen-free summer feeling alive. So, you know what? We are definitely going to keep the KiwiCo boxes coming. KiwiCo delivers monthly science and art projects that turn curiosity into creativity. From building an arcade claw machine to making their own fluffy pancakes, kids can explore science, technology, engineering, art, and math in a seriously fun, hands-on way. Plus, these are real engineering, science, and art projects with super high-quality materials. We recently got the Atlas Crate, which is all about geography and culture. We learned about Peru, the mysterious ruins at Machu Picchu, and even made our own mini alpacas. It was so much fun. So as you wind down your summer, keep your kids' downtime stress-free and so much fun with a crate from KiwiCo. Get 30% off your first month, plus free shipping on any crate line with code SIMPLIFIED at kiwico.com. That's 30% off your first month at KIWICO.com, promo code SIMPLIFIED.
And now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. How often do you check in with your mind to make sure you're doing okay? When it's summer and I have a little more time on my hands, I make sure to take breaks to go on a walk or take a bath just to help my mind slow down. But when I'm in a busy season, I'm not as good about it, and I can feel it too. How we care for our minds affects how we experience life, so it's important to invest some time into keeping them healthy. An easy way to do that is through BetterHelp Online Therapy. Honestly, therapy has been one of the greatest gifts I've ever given to myself. Taking time to talk to a therapist about my life, the good things and the hard things, has helped me slow down and see things from a different perspective. Sometimes it's hard, but it's really rewarding. BetterHelp is online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat therapy sessions, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. My listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/simplified. That's betterhelp.com/simplified. Okay, so I'm kind of going off script because we did have some questions planned, but I feel like I have other questions I want to ask you about.
Okay.
Sorry, you're not prepared for this.
I'm fine. It's great.
But like, we were talking earlier today about how, like, how do you know when a relationship or a friendship is, you said, what was it, for a season or for a
For a
reason?
season or a reason.
Tell us
Mhm.
about that, because I thought that was brilliant.
I've had both of those kinds of friendships. I've
Same.
had friendships end abruptly. And, you know, some of those were more for me. Like I had to end those because I was at a different place where I needed to work on things in myself and I couldn't honor that friendship well. Right. Like,
Yeah.
and so I've
Yeah.
had to end those on my terms. And I think that it gives me a really, I don't know, peaceful ending, I would say, to a lot of those that happen that way, to know that they were either for a season or a reason. Like there are friendships that have happened where I've gotten super close to someone where like I'm talking, you know, the girl that like you go to a concert and you have to go to the bathroom and there's like only one. So she's the one who's like watching the door.
Yeah.
Like that kind of close. Like I've
Yeah.
gotten that kind of close to different people with each of my kids.
Yeah.
Like it's never been the same person through that postpartum season. I've obviously had like these like pillars that have like shown up in every single one of those postpartum seasons, but like specifically getting close to different women with different and usually it's because that they have a baby around the same age
Yeah.
and they've experienced it the same way or at the same time, or they have wisdom to give me. Like maybe they're older, maybe they're just like ahead on that walk and they see me and see the road that I'm on. And so, and it's never like this bitter ending. I mean, I've had obviously bitter endings. I feel like we all have. It's always this like, we get to the end of it and, you know, life gets crazy and things start going. And I look back and like space just kind of ends up happening in that relationship. And I can still look back on it and honor it. Like,
Yeah.
that was a great season. Like,
Yeah.
I am so appreciative that they spoke in my life during that season. Or it could be the other way, which is like for a reason. And that is, they taught me something about myself. Or
Yeah.
I was able to step in and help them And that was enough. And like,
Mm-hmm.
again, no hard feelings, but I'm grateful for each of those because it's obviously who I am now. Like it makes
Yeah.
me be a better person and a better friend. I always say Danielle and I, probably each Mother's Day, each birthday, random times throughout the year, like we can see each other doing the hard things in life, which is just keeping up sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And we will literally just text each other, you are a mother I want to be, or you are a friend I want to be, because like it is so powerful to see that in someone else and like honor that, because a lot of times they don't feel like they're nailing it. Like,
yeah. Okay, that's such a good point. That's like taking the time to send a note or a message that does not request or require a response. Like,
no, yeah,
that is so, you do that so well. You've done that with me before. Like, you could tell that I had my head underwater and was trying to keep up, and you were like, let me just remind you.
Let's just talk about this real quick.
Right.
And I think that there are so many times that I've gone through life, and I'm fortunate to have people that just see me. And I think that it is so powerful to be able to see the people that you want in your circle. And I think this is something that comes probably with like maturity and like with going through different friendships and relationships and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But just being able to be like, they're not asking me to do a bunch of stuff now. Like what, like not being so offended by not being included in everything, but being able to say, they've got a lot going on. They've got a lot of people that love them, and they may not be seeing me right now, but I see them. Yeah. And by me, like not being offended, but more reaching out to them and loving on them, like they probably need that. They probably feel super overwhelmed with the season that they're in.
And honestly, like everyone does. Like everyone needs
like
that.
Nobody is nailing this.
Nobody's nailing it.
Nobody's nailing it.
If you're listening right now and you're nailing it, we need you to let us know.
Hired.
You're hired. And then we want you to run the podcast. Yeah. That's so funny. Okay, you also, you and I are both in our 30s, right? You're in your 30s. Yeah.
I hit the big 3-0 this year, and I love it.
That's right. You're on your way in, I'm on my way out. But like, you also have your hand in the lives of girls who are a lot younger, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's so interesting. Like, I have an almost teenager. This is so weird to say.
Holy.
We're going into middle school, and it's funny, like me in my 30s, like I'm still learning things about friendship that even my tween is learning. And these girls that you're working with, like they're learning a lot about friendship. So what's your best advice for girls of that age about like loving intentionally on friends or nurturing healthy friendships and that kind of thing?
I would have to say like the best way for us to have a nurturing friendship and any kind of friendship, any kind of relationship is to put the other person first. Like to be as selfless as possible, to come into a friendship and want to serve that other person. I think by having a servant's heart and seeing the pieces of their life that need help and not there to fix them, just there to carry them. That's it. Like just
I'm sorry, are you talking about marriage here? Because I feel this in my bones.
I'm preaching to myself. And Tyler's going to be like, where did that come from? That didn't come to mind.
We had Nadra Tawwab on the podcast, and she talked about boundaries. And it was an incredible episode, and you have to go back and listen to it. But she was saying something to me about marriage and boundaries in marriage, just about like your communication style and whatnot. And she said something about like, what drives you nuts about Brian? And I love him. And
we love Brian.
There's wonderful things about Brian, but there's a couple of things if I could like tweak a little bit. And I said, the first thing that came to mind was I was like, oh my God, his shoes on the floor. Like he just leaves his shoes on the floor all the time. I could walk out that door right now and there's 2 pairs of shoes on the floor easily. Walter's probably eating them at this point, but there's shoes on the floor. And she goes, and do you know how to have a happy marriage if you're going to stay married? And I said, tell me, because that's the goal.
We're all listening.
Like, you're going to live with shoes on the floor or you're going to pick them up. And I was like, but why can't he just pick up his shoes? And she was like, you married someone who doesn't pick up their shoes. And I was like, oh. And she said, you got to honor who they are and who they're not. And I was like, oh, that's a good word, even though I didn't want you to say it.
Right? The whole honor thing is just so heavy. It's like such a big word, but it's necessary in both marriage and friendships, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. In who they are and in who they're not.
Take action today for a healthier tomorrow with Everlywell. Everlywell is digital healthcare designed for you, all at an affordable price. With over 30 at-home lab tests, you'll be able to choose a test that helps you get the answers you need, like the women's health test or the food sensitivity test. Here's how it works. Everlywell ships products straight to you with everything needed in one package. To take your at-home lab test, simply collect your sample and use the prepaid shipping label to mail your test back to a certified lab. Your physician-reviewed results get sent to your phone in just days. I've used 3 Everlywell tests, the food sensitivity test, the women's health test, and the thyroid test. They are super easy to take and gave me really detailed results. And actually, Everlywell helped me realize I needed to get my thyroid checked by my primary care doctor. Now I am on a treatment plan and feel so much better. So start living your healthier tomorrow. Everlywell is giving my listeners a special discount of 20% off an at-home lab test at everlywell.com/simplified. That's everlywell.com/simplified for 20% off your next at-home lab test. everlywell.com/simplified. I am always on the lookout for small habits that make a big difference in my life. And after months and months of using this stuff, I am so happy to say that adding Athletic Greens AG1 powder to my routine has been a game changer. I started taking AG1 because I was spending so much money on vitamins and supplements, and having to remember which ones to take and which ones to restock was such a pain. With AG1, I've been able to replace all the vitamins and supplements I was taking with just 1 scoop of powder in a cup of water every day. AG1 has more than 75 essential vitamins and minerals, and to let me tell you, I am super weird about protein powders and supplements that have taste, but AG1 actually tastes good. AG1 supports better sleep quality, mental clarity, and alertness, and I can absolutely tell a difference. I can't recommend it enough. So reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/simplified. One more time, go to athleticgreens.com/simplified to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
Okay, I would love to know if you have any tactical tips for intentionally like being a good friend, putting thought into it, not just like picking up the phone when the person calls or saying hi when you see them out, but like how do you intentionally try to show up for your friends?
Oh, we mentioned it before. Something that was laid on my heart, like, I don't know, probably almost 3 years ago now, is being someone who stands in the gap for people when it comes to praying. I found myself like hearing people say, "Hey, Jess, I have this interview coming up. Can you pray for me? Like, please be praying for me." Or getting a text, "We're at the ER right now. I just need you to pray. I don't know what's going to happen." And I would find myself being like, "Yeah, of course. And we're praying like diligently." And my heart wrecked because it was such a passive prayer that I would pray.
Yeah.
And so what I started to do was like right then, if somebody asked me to pray, I would just send the prayer, like exactly what I wanted to say. I would just send it then, because if I didn't, then I would see them like 2 weeks later and I'd be like, "Be blessed." I forgot to pray for you.
I forgot. But it's so true. We're like, yes, we're praying for you. Yes. And then we'll stop and say a little prayer, but it's not the same. Like when I tell you guys that Jessa does exactly what she's saying, like we were going through this crazy weird thing with Tyler's eye. And he has this thing called vernal keratoconjunctivitis, and it's this allergy condition with his eye, and it had gotten really bad. And he was looking at like potential surgery and all this other stuff. And I text our team and I was like, just please, I know you're my friends, that if I say, will you pray for Tyler, you will. And Jessa texted back this couple of paragraphs, like prayer, that was so like cut to the absolute heart of what I was praying, like for my baby. Like she did that. And when you say stand in the gap, it's you come up with the words that sometimes it's hard to find for yourself. And that is so beautiful.
I truly think that it is like, it's all God. Like, I think that it's so cool that we have the privilege to come to him in prayer, to stand, to be able to pray on your behalf for your baby. Like that is a gift. Like it's one of our biggest helps that we could gift someone. Yeah, obviously money can help and action is obviously necessary, like for the doctors and all of that. But me, I'm not a doctor. I'm over here. I'm not a doctor. And the biggest thing that I can do for you is have all of heaven up on your end, trying to do whatever they can. So.
And that, my friends, is the mic drop.
That is how to be a good friend.
That is how to be a good friend. Oh my gosh. Jessa, thank you for doing this. You're my hero. Where can everyone find and follow you?
Oh, you can find me on Instagram. And if you want to follow a lot of like cooking and toddler shenanigans and some really cool design stuff, it's Jessa Bray, 2 Ys.
And you also get some really great Simplified behind the scenes sometimes that are my absolute favorite.
Oh, yeah.
We were laughing the other day that when Jessa tags you in a reel, you get a little nervous.
It can be a little nerve-wracking.
You're the best. Well, that was so much fun. I can't tell you enough about how much I love and admire Jessa. She always has really practical life and is able to just so beautifully and eloquently speak into the real parts of life. And she is such a gem over at Team Simplified, not just because of her incredibly insane talents as an artist, but because she's always the one to offer up a prayer via text message or speak truth into something that feels more complicated. As we close out this episode, I'd like to say a blessing for you as we leave this time together and get back to our days. May you cherish the friendships that make you feel seen and known. May you find ways to nurture those relationships even in the busiest of seasons. And above all, I hope you can be that friend for someone else, because it's just as rewarding to receive a beautiful friend as it is to be that beautiful friend. As always, I like to leave a little tip to help you put what we talked about today into practice. So here's your task for this week. Having friends in other states or countries can be hard, but that doesn't mean you can't still have fun. If you want to connect with friends who aren't close by, why don't you host a Zoom game night? Trust me, this is not a sad pandemic Zoom game night. It can be a lot of fun, plus no one has to host dinner, clean up, there's no commute, nothing. Just you guys logging into your devices and talking and laughing together. There are all kinds of games that put you in a virtual game room or give you a game board so you can each access on your phone or tablet. Just have your Zoom open so you can see and talk to each other while you play. I have friends who play Ticket to Ride most weeks together on their phone. You can also play Clue, Settlers of Catan, my kids love that game, the Game of Life. You could also do Monopoly if you're really brave. You can even find apps that'll let you play your favorite card games together, even Uno if you want the kids to get in on the fun too. Trust me, it's a really easy way to get some laughs in with the people you love who are far away. Thank you for listening to the Simplified podcast. I hope today's episode helped you remember that sweet friendships are always available to you, even in the harder seasons. You can find show notes for this episode at emilylay.com/podcast, where you can check out links and resources we mentioned here, and you can shop the Simplified brand of planners and products. If you'd like to listen to the Simplified podcast ad-free and a little bit earlier, then you should check out the premium version of our show on Apple Podcasts. Just search for the Simplified podcast in the search bar and tap the blue thumbnail image with the pink pineapple. You can't miss it. And don't forget to pick up your copy of my new kids book, You're Always Enough and More Than I Hoped For, right now wherever you buy books. Before you go, I have a quick favor to ask. If you love this show, would you go to your podcast provider and leave a review? I want more people reaching for a life that's a bit more slow and sweet and good, and leaving a review helps your podcast provider get this show to more people who will enjoy it. If you've left a review, thank you. Please know I have read your words and taken them to heart. Till next time, thank you so much for listening. Bye.